Hi and welcome back to Kev's Vintage Tractor Repair channel. In this episode today, what we're going to be doing is taking off the various parts around the engine, manifolds, water pump and so on. So we're going to have a little chat about the different bits and pieces as we go. Hope you enjoy the video. We've got the engine off the gearbox and we're just going to have a quick look inside. And what we can see is a really bad oil leak in the bottom, which is obviously that's could be coming from the gearbox. Obviously we've got the seals and bearings in there, and there's also a seal in here which is gone, so all the oil is coming forward. And as we can see, it's been doing it for a long time because it's really black and really filthy in there. But when we do the gearbox side, we'll obviously give it a clean and I'll run through stripping and rebuilding the gearbox. But what we're going to do next is we're going to move on to the engine first. Okay, so here we are at the back of the engine. Obviously, here's our flywheel and our dual clutch. Obviously, we've got two friction plates in this one. One is your main drive plate, and the other one inside is for the PTO side. So I pulled this one apart just to sort of show you, and obviously this is all going to come apart. But at some point, somebody put this clutch plate the wrong way around. Where it sticks out furthest, obviously goes to the gearbox. But what somebody has done, put the disc on, squeezed it up, and as we can see, it is rubbed on these, the flywheel bolts. Also you can see it on here as well. This pressure plate is really bad. It is really worn, there's big scores in it and there's a big lip in it there. So I think what we're going to do is possibly get a new one, or we'll get this skimmed and I'll rebuild the clutch. What we're going to do is start removing some other parts from around the engine. Okay, so obviously on this side we're going to be removing the injectors, the pipes and the little lift pump down the end there. Then we're going to move around to the front. So we've got the thermostat housing, water pump, and on the last side will be the dynamo and the exhaust and inlet manifolds. Okay, so we're the injection pump side of the engine, and like I said earlier, what we're going to do is remove the injectors and all the pipe work. But what we'll do first of all right, rather than undo the caps which hold the injectors down, we'll undo these pipes first. Got 9/16, so we're just going to crack these off and just loosen them all off. There we go. Now, this one is stuck, so we're not going to worry about it because I'm going to replace the leak-off rail pipe anyway because it had a hole in it, so that one's broke. But if you're doing it on your own, obviously you'd get in there with a spanner. So that one, number 3, and number 4. So off they come. And there we go. Okay, that's the leak-off rail off. All right, full of old diesel. So just drop that one down there. Next, 5/8 spanner onto the injection pipes. So we'll start off with number 1. The clamps at the top are actually holding our injectors down, which is keeping them nice and secure when we're undoing these. But when we refit them, I generally like to get all the pipe work started while the injectors are still loose. Then we've got a bit more movement and we're not bending pipes to try and make them fit. So, nearly off. There we go. All right. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4 off. So what we're going to do is a 1/2 inch socket, and we're going to undo the caps. Start on number 1. I have to stand up. There we go. There's so much paint on there. that one, that one. Like I said in previous episodes, this is all done in real time. I don't know, I'm finding out as I go along, and so are you. There we go, there's one off. And I think we're going to find that the injectors are all stuck. Feeling how these feel. And like we said before, this tractor was obviously painted the wrong colour. All the engine, gearbox and rear end should be painted gold, and as we're moving along we keep finding little bits of the old colour on here. So it's dotted around all over. I'll show you, there's a few more bits the other side. Okay, so it's number 3. Last one, number 4. I don't know if we're going to have a lot of luck getting these out, because I think they haven't been out in a very, very long time. And there we go, number 4. As we can see, full of dirt again. So we've removed the pipework, removed the lock and down caps off the top of the injectors. So just to give us a bit more room, we'll start taking the injector pipes off from around the pump. Now, in this episode, I'm not going to remove the pump, because what I'm going to do is, in one of our next episodes, I'm going to show you where the timing marks are for this engine. Obviously, one on the back with the flywheel, on the pump, and on the front of the engine where the timing chain is. If there aren't any marks, what we'll do, we'll put our own in, and I'll show you this is what I do when I'm obviously working on these engines. So like I said before, we're going to just remove these pipes and just get them out of the way. So that's one off. These are just the little clips just holding the pipes in place. Nearly there. Okay, so that's that one off. So I've undone the little clips around here. So there's only sort of, well, there are 3. I think there's normally 4, 1 for each pipe, but there's only 2 actually on here at the minute. So you could put a little mark on the pump, so you know which pipe goes where, but how they've been bent, they pretty much only fit one way, unless you're really forcing them to make them fit, but we don't want to do that. So number 4 coming off. There it comes. Leave it in our box. Number 3. And it's actually turning in the pump, and I actually want to just get the injector off. So obviously we have another spanner, 9/16 on there. One goes one way, one the other, maybe not. That is seriously tight. Let's try again. There we go. So there we go with number 3. And number 2 right underneath. So we'll do that one. See if that one will undo as well. No, it's going to do the same. So we need our 9/16. I'll try not to get in your way. You can still see, which I don't think I can. Got that one on. So let's try again. There we go. Off this one comes. And we can actually see all the nice years and years worth of old diesel in there. So off this one comes. There we go. More old diesel and peeling of paint. So last one, number 1. There we go. To our fingers. And there we go. And there's number 1 off in the pot. So that's pretty much what I'll take off there. Alright, so what we're going to do next, we're going to take off our little lift pump here. I've already removed the pipes. Normally the back one will be from your fuel tank, so it's obviously going to come down to here. The lift pump is run by your camshaft, so as the arm in there goes in and out, pushing diesel from your filter, which is up here, actually on your battery tray, through the filter and to your injection pump, where obviously it goes through here, and then it's pushed through and forced through to your injectors. But we'll talk more about that when I talk about the pump. So first of all, we're going to take our little lift pump off, which should be a 1/2 inch. So let's see what we get. Okay, so that one's on. There we go. I'll say these are 2 1/2 inch nuts, which this one is being really awkward. When I get this off, we've got this little lift pump. Now, lots of tractors have them, or some of our vintage ones, even sometimes some of the modern ones. But with this little lift pump, we've got another little filter in it, which is on the top here. We've got this little cap, little screw on there. So what I'll do in a moment, once I've got this off, we'll take it off and we'll see how often that has been changed. Not that often, I wouldn't have thought, because sometimes I get a few tractors come in and they're still running really rough after you've changed filters and bits and pieces like that, and this is pretty much one which people forget about sometimes. So there we go, that's that one, and one on the other side, and off it comes. Removed the lift pump out, and here it is, obviously cleaned really well before it was painted. But like I was saying, we've got this little cap on the top here, where there is another little gauze filter inside. I should think I've got the right size screwdriver. Yep, there we go. So let's see what we find inside. So off it comes, lay that there, and then, obviously you've seen me take this off. All right, so there we go. Years and years worth of rubbish. So we can tell the filter's been doing its job, but it's just something else we could really clean, obviously, when we're giving it a service. All right, so if I just get a screwdriver, and there it is, years and years of dirt. And I think that was a spider. So let's say, there it is. All right. So I'll leave that in there. And there's our filter. You can see it's been doing its job. It's trapped lots of dirt in there, but that is another little bit we could do to sort of when we're servicing and maintaining our tractor. Right, so we'll turn the engine slightly. So what we're going to do this time, I'm going to remove the dynamo, the fan blade, water pump housing, and obviously our thermostat housing as well, just to get a bit more out of the way. First of all, we're going to remove our dynamo. We've got our adjuster here, so obviously we can loosen these, and then we can move the dynamo in and out. Obviously to put some tension on the belt for changing the belt, it's maybe a bit loose, or push it all the way in so we can take it off and replace the belt if needed. So first of all, undo this, and obviously these two underneath, all with 1/2 inch socket and spanner, unless somewhere through this life of this tractor somebody has put different nuts and bolts in them, which tends to happen. And sort of another thing when you're pulling these tractors apart is, I know I get all the nuts and bolts and I put them in my pot, but if this is a new thing, you've bought a new dynamo, you want to fit it, you're taking your nuts and bolts off, you don't want to lose them, just put things back together again and put them in your pot, because it's nice to always put a lot of the original nuts and bolts in. I've got loads and loads of UNC and UNF, Imperial nuts and bolts, because sometimes when you work on these tractors, some people put metric ones on, which is slightly different to your size spanners, and sometimes it sort of just stands out when we do that. But keep as many original ones as you can, but obviously if they're no good, we'll change them. Let's see if we can get this one out. It's stuck. There it is, and now off comes our dynamo. So we're going to get bored of me saying it, okay? Let's say it's been painted and just dirt left everywhere. And I don't know, I know it looks like rust, but there we can still see some of our original gold paint underneath. That's obviously the other side as well. But this will be another thing we'll do. I'll do a little talk on refurbishing dynamos and testing them. Let's just drop our nuts and bolts in, so obviously we don't lose them. That's obviously our dynamo off. Okay, we've got the dynamo bracket, but we're not going to worry too much about that. So what we're going to do is just move around slightly, and then we'll remove the water pump. Okay, so we've moved around to obviously to the front of the engine, and this time, okay, we're going to remove the fan, these 4 1/2-inch bolts there. Okay, and then obviously back to the water pump and the water pump holder carrier, which attaches itself to the block, and then obviously our thermostat housing. So usual thing on here, some 1/2 inches, again 1/2-inch socket. Okay, and then 1, 2, right. Okay, and 4. These ones are fairly long because they've got to go a long way into the front of the water pump. Where this water pump, all right, it's on Ferguson, it's diesel, and also the same pump can be fitted to your Ferguson TE20s as well, the diesels, petrols and petrol paraffins, not the 3-cylinder, all the 4 cylinders. Not 100% sure what this piece is. I have heard stories in the past it was like a weight to stop vibration on the blade. There we go, you can see on there, this one was painted red at some point in its life. You can actually still see where it was sandblasted, all that is metal, and there's a little bit of paint on the metal there. This one should, let's get the belt out of the way, and this one should come off, a bit of a wiggle, and there it is, off. All right, so that's obviously goes on there to run our belt. And if we can zoom in, there's some more of our sand. This would be an age-related pump, I would guess, because obviously these are serviceable, because it's actually got a grease nipple up there, so we can actually grease the bearings. In the modern ones, they're actually sealed bearings inside. So but on this one, if it was okay, we could still put grease in just to service it up. But looking at this, I would say a lot of the old grease is coming through. So we'll obviously replace the water pump when we come to it. Or we'll refurb it, we'll see where we get. So what we've got here, we've got we've got 2 nuts and a bolt, which are obviously 9/16. Undo these, and then our water pump will come off. It comes. And we'll undo these 2. Let's undo that one, and then out it comes. And here is our water pump. Loads of dirt and grime and bits and pieces. The bearing's really dry, which I should think they had. But if you're going to fit a new water pump, don't take this one off and throw it away, because you're going to need this hub to actually go onto the new water pump. Give it a wash, put it to one side, They can go on the shelf with everything else to do with this tractor. Obviously this is the carrier, which then connects into the engine block. 2 more 9/16, obviously, and then we've got this old, knackered old hose there as well. So we'll get rid of that. And that end. And that may even be the original pipe. Different Jubilee clips. Originally that would have had wire ones, but we've got these modern strip ones. So that's that off. These two here, I'll just remove. And maybe a little lever behind it. And off it comes. So this will be fine. We'll give it a clean up, sandblast in my cabinet, and then obviously we can use it again and attach our new water pump to it. There's the old gasket. Obviously goes into the water jacket of our block. As we can see, there's a bit rough in there. Here is a core plug, or freeze plug, whatever you want to call them. Now, when I rebuild my engines, I replace these. It's one of the first, well, not one of the first things I do, it's one of the things I do, because when we knock the other ones out, these can get very thin. And the other thing, because we're going to put these parts on here, the last thing we want is a leaky core plug. So then we've got to take all this off when we obviously put the engine back into the tractor. So when we start pulling more bits off, we'll knock these out so you can actually see what's behind them and see how thin they do actually get. Okay, so we've now removed the water pump. We've still got a little bit further to go on the engine, so I think for this episode we're going to end it here. We'll start the next episode with removing the rest of the parts around the engine. Thank you, hope you've enjoyed it. Hope to see you soon.